But first, we really have to clear something up. Let's look at the myth versus the reality. We are constantly fed this myth that mental strength is about being loud, being completely unfazed by everything, or having this super aggressive chest-beating confidence. But the reality? It is completely different. True mental strength has absolutely nothing to do with confidence tricks or cheesy motivational quotes you'd see on a poster. It is firmly rooted in invisible internal shifts. And as you'll see, once you understand these quiet little shifts, you are going to start noticing them everywhere, in people who stay unusually steady under fire. All right, Section 1, the quiet operating system. Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. Guarding your mental energy. So literally everyone out there talks about time management, right? But look at this comparison. Protecting energy versus protecting time. Almost nobody talks about energy management, which is wild. Think about it. You could have 4 completely free hours in your afternoon, but if your mental energy is totally drained, you are going to accomplish absolutely nothing. Mentally starved people pay incredibly close attention to exactly which people, which environments, and which habits quietly drain them. And they limit their exposure long before burnout actually forces them to. Meaning, they know exactly when to Irish goodbye that exhausting networking event, or when to put that chaotic group chat on mute. They know that saying yes to a draining situation right now is literally saying no to their own mental clarity later on. Because they protect their energy so proactively, they just rarely need those dramatic week-long recovery periods that the rest of us use to bounce back from a total crash. And a huge part of guarding that energy means not wasting it on unnecessary explanations. So many people feel this intense, crushing pressure to justify why they haven't achieved something yet, why they're still renting, why they're still single, why they're still trying to figure out their career path. They end up over-explaining their timeline to people who never even ask in the first place. Well, mentally strong people quietly just stop doing this. They realize that comparing your complicated, messy, full reality to someone else's perfectly edited highlight reel is just a guaranteed losing game. It's pointless. So they never explain their pace to others. Now, what's really interesting about this is the actual science behind that awful feeling. This is called social comparison bias. It's the psychological tendency to completely distort our own reality by comparing our raw internal struggles to the polished external successes of everyone else around us. Mentally strong people just accept that personal growth is not a straight line. They stop performing their progress for an audience. And that energy, the energy that used to go into desperately justifying their pace, it gets entirely redirected into actually moving forward. Which brings us to Section 3, reprogramming internal reactions. Okay, be honest with yourself for a second. For most of us, the second something feels uncomfortable, say an awkward conversation or a really stressful task staring at us, we immediately look for the exit door. We start doom scrolling on our phones, we abruptly change the subject, we procrastinate, we do anything to escape. But mentally strong people have trained a completely different response through something neuroscience calls distress tolerance. This is the capacity to stay completely functional while fully experiencing difficult emotions. It is not that they don't feel the discomfort. They feel it. They feel it entirely. They just make the active choice not to be controlled by it. They don't immediately reach for a distraction. And the beautiful, kind of counterintuitive secret they rarely say out loud is this. The discomfort usually passes so much faster once you simply stop fighting it. They also completely reprogram how they handle motivation and setting goals. Most people get an exciting idea on day one, let's say a new fitness routine or a business idea, and they immediately announce it to everyone roughly 5 minutes after starting, right? It feels super productive. But research on identity and public commitment shows this actually heavily backfires. Announcing a goal gives your brain a quick little hit of social recognition, effectively tricking it into feeling like you've already made real progress, even when you've done absolutely nothing yet. Mentally strong people instinctively dodge this trap. Instead, they focus on quiet, heads-down execution in week 2 and month 3. They literally wait until year 1 to actually announce it. They vigorously protect their motivation, saving it for the actual execution rather than blowing it all early on just talking about it. Then there is self-talk, which might honestly be the single most vital internal reaction you can ever reprogram. When emotionally reactive people hit a wall, they tend to fuse their temporary emotions directly with their permanent core identity. They feel a sense of defeat and immediately tell themselves this quote, "I am a failure." And this brilliantly illustrates the fix. It's just a subtle linguistic shift, but it changes everything. Instead of the permanent "I am a failure," mentally strong people say, "I experienced a failure." Or instead of saying "I am anxious," it becomes "I feel anxious." The emotion simply becomes a temporary visitor, not a permanent resident in their mind. This tiny, tiny shift in language creates immense psychological distance. Actually, scratch that. It's not just distance, it's perspective. It allows them to step back and just observe the emotion, rather than desperately suppressing it or letting it define exactly who they are. They aren't people who feel less. They are simply people who have learned not to become whatever they happen to be feeling in the moment. All right, moving right along to section 4, rethinking social friction. So the crucial point here is how you interpret a no. Let's face it, most people treat rejection as undeniable, concrete proof of their lack of worth. A no from a job interview or a date means there is something fundamentally, brokenly wrong with them. But mentally strong people quietly redefine this whole process. They completely separate the event from the interpretation. They move from seeing rejection as proof of their worth to seeing it as simple, neutral information. That's it. A no just means the timing was off, the fit was wrong, or the other party just had their own limitations. Every single time they survive a rejection without their entire self-image collapsing, this specific skill gets stronger. Rejection just completely stops being a blaring danger signal and just becomes neutral data. But perhaps the hardest shift of all, the one that takes the most work, is making peace with being misunderstood. Look, humans are heavily wired for social belonging. We desperately want to be understood and validated by everyone around us. Mentally strong people just quietly let this need go. They realize that constantly chasing universal approval means you slowly, inevitably have to abandon your own internal standards just to please a bunch of shifting audiences. After all, if literally everyone agrees with everything you do, you probably aren't doing much of anything. So they accept a quiet trade-off. Fewer people might fully understand them, sure, but the ones who do understand them completely. Being misunderstood is just accepted as a totally normal cost of having strong personal boundaries, real opinions, and a clear direction in life. Which leads us to our final part, section 5, the power of quiet repetition. When you zoom out and look at all these habits together, not explaining your pace, sitting with that awful discomfort, protecting your energy, delaying your announcements, creating psychological distance, and accepting being misunderstood, they share a really profound common thread. Absolutely none of these are about projecting some fake macho confidence to the world. They are all entirely internal shifts. They are completely invisible to everyone except the person actually practicing them. And most importantly, none of these require some innate magical talent or lucky genetics. They simply require quiet repetition. They require the incredible, stubborn willingness to build these patterns day after day, without applause, without external proof, and without anyone even noticing, until years later, when the undeniable results finally speak for themselves. And that brings us to our final takeaway. I really want you to take a moment and honestly reflect on your own mental operating system right now. So out of all these quiet habits we explored in this explainer today, which of these are you already practicing without even realizing it? And more importantly, which one do you deeply, truly need to start building today? Because true mental strength isn't just magically given to you. It's something you quietly build, one invisible decision at a time. Thanks so much